The world thought the Super Bowl halftime show was going to be Bad Bunny's biggest triumph, a moment that would cement him as the Latin icon of the decade. But instead, it's turning into one of the most politically explosive controversies in music history. Just weeks before he's set to take the biggest stage in America, Congress has officially stepped in. And the allegations behind the scenes sound like something out of a political thriller. It started when several watchdog groups accused the NFL of violating content neutrality rules, claiming that Bad Bunny's halftime performance was funded, in part, by a network of corporate sponsors with hidden government ties. But what's more shocking is that leaked documents suggest the Department of Homeland Security had been reviewing the show's set list and monitoring his lyrics for potential political messaging. Yes, you heard that right, according to multiple insiders. The same government agency that handles national security was allegedly reviewing a concert. Within 24 hours of that leak, Capitol Hill erupted. Senators demanded answers. Congressional committees scheduled emergency hearings. And behind closed doors, executives at both the NFL and ROC Nation, the company producing the show, started panicking because this isn't just about music anymore. This is about control, censorship, and the dangerous intersection between entertainment and politics. What was supposed to be a celebration of Latin culture has spiraled into a federal-level investigation, with lawmakers accusing the NFL of political manipulation, and Bad Bunny caught right in the middle. The singer's silence is making things worse. He hasn't posted, hasn't tweeted, and hasn't appeared in public since the story broke. Fans are terrified that something much deeper is going on, and according to leaked congressional memos, they're right, because if what's inside those documents is true, Bad Bunny's Super Bowl show might not just be postponed. It might never happen. To understand why Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show has spiraled into the biggest entertainment scandal of the year, you have to understand who Bad Bunny really is. Not just the global reggaeton superstar, but the artist who's been walking a dangerous line between rebellion, politics, and power for years. Born Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, Bad Bunny rose from the streets of Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, to become one of the most powerful voices in modern music. But unlike other stars who played it safe once they hit the global stage, he never shut up about what mattered. His lyrics, his visuals, even his fashion, everything about him screamed protest. From calling out corrupt politicians in San Juan to defying machismo culture in Latin music, Bad Bunny built his empire on controversy. That's exactly what made him dangerous, and exactly why the NFL wanted him. When the league announced Bad Bunny as the headliner for Super Bowl 59, the internet exploded. It was hailed as a long overdue recognition of Latin culture on one of the most watched stages in the world. Media outlets called it a new cultural era, and fans braced for what would likely be the most revolutionary halftime show since Beyoncé's Black Panther-themed performance in 2016. But even then, whispers were already circulating behind the scenes. He's unpredictable. One league executive reportedly said in a leaked internal email, "He doesn't play by the script." At first, that was dismissed as nervousness from corporate suits. But it turned out to be an omen, because 3 weeks after the announcement, a chain of anonymous insider leaks began to surface online. Posts claiming that Bad Bunny's halftime concept was too political, too symbolic, and too anti-establishments for the NFL to stomach. One viral thread on X, formerly Twitter, claimed the show would include a massive visual projection referencing U.S. intervention in Puerto Rico, featuring the words "we never needed," saving another alleged the stage design contained subliminal nods to colonial exploitation, specifically calling out pharmaceutical companies that had operated in Puerto Rico for decades. When the leaks reached NFL headquarters, executives reportedly called an emergency meeting with ROC Nation. Jay-Z's entertainment company and the official producer of the halftime show. The goal? To tone Bad Bunny down. But according to multiple sources, that's when things got strange. The secret meeting at Rockefeller Studios 2 weeks before rehearsals were set to begin. An off-record meeting allegedly took place at Rockefeller Studios in Manhattan. Present in the room were representatives from ROC Nation, NFL production executives, and shockingly, a liaison consultant from the Department of Homeland Security. Why would Homeland Security be sitting in on a music meeting? According to one insider's email that later leaked, the DHS rep was there to evaluate visual and lyrical risk factors tied to political messaging that may influence national broadcast sentiment. In plain English, the U.S. government wanted to make sure Bad Bunny didn't say anything that could cause unrest, but apparently, that made Bad Bunny furious. The same insider claimed that Benito walked out of the meeting, saying, "If they want a puppet, they can hire one. I'm not here to sing for their politics." That was the moment the tension exploded. The NFL had a PR nightmare on its hands. They couldn't cancel him without outrage from Latin fans. But they couldn't control him either. That's when Congress stepped in. The complaint that started ITLL 2 weeks later. A bipartisan watchdog group filed an official complaint with the House Oversight Committee, claiming the NFL may have violated broadcast neutrality agreements by collaborating with federal agencies to monitor a live performance for political messaging. The filing accused the league of leveraging federal partnerships to censor cultural expression. What started as a music story had now become a constitutional one. When journalists at the Washington Post requested comment from the NFL, the league refused, but a leaked internal memo painted a darker picture. It contained a list of restricted visuals for Bad Bunny's show, including any use of Puerto Rican flags larger than the American flag, visual references to hurricanes, colonialism, or U.S. disaster aid projected text reading "We never needed saving" or colonizer energy, choreography interpretable as rebellion or protest. Those exact words were found in the memo's bullet points. When fans saw that list, they lost it. Hashtags like #LetBenitoSpeak and #SuperCensorshipBull trended globally. Thousands accused the NFL of cultural erasure. But the controversy didn't stop there, because someone inside the system decided to fight back. The leaked emails a week later. A set of emails surfaced on an independent journalism platform called the Frequency Files. The emails were allegedly between NFL Vice President Donna Garvey and ROC Nation's legal department. One line in particular sent shockwaves through the industry. The department is clear. The segment cannot reference or imply Puerto Rican independence. We must vet the lyrics 48 hours before air. The department, that single phrase became the center of national outrage. Which department? Homeland Security. The Department of Defense. The Department of Culture, which doesn't even exist. Congress demanded answers. The House Subcommittee on Media and Ethics scheduled an emergency session titled Government Oversight in Entertainment Broadcasting. And in the middle of that firestorm was one man, Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny CLNC, for the first time in his career, Benito went completely dark. No cryptic tweets. No Instagram posts. No appearances. He even canceled a surprise club performance in Miami that fans had been lining up for days to see. Insiders said he was unreachable, but according to a source close to his inner circle, Benito had been warned. They told him not to push it. They said if he performed the original version, there'd be consequences. When the source was asked who they were, she only said, "People who aren't supposed to be in the music business." By now, the entire world was hooked. You had politicians tweeting about it. You had the FBI issuing press statements denying involvement. You had think pieces calling it the death of artistic freedom. And through it all, Bad Bunny said nothing, until an unverified voice note leaked online, allegedly from his burner account. In it, he said something that only added fuel to the inferno. They can take the stage. They can't take the truth. That clip went viral instantly. People were convinced he was hinting that the Super Bowl stage itself was under surveillance, that even the lights, the audio feeds, maybe even the choreography were being monitored. Fans began spreading conspiracy threads suggesting that government wasn't just censoring his lyrics. It was scanning them for coded messages. And while no one could prove that, one thing was clear. The situation had spiraled far beyond music, because when Congress started pulling subpoenaed documents from the NFL, what they found suggested that this wasn't the first time federal agencies had interfered in entertainment broadcasts.
Bad Bunny was simply the first to fight back, and what those documents revealed next would turn the entire Super Bowl narrative upside down. When the House Subcommittee on Media and Ethics finally got hold of those subpoenaed documents, what they discovered didn't just implicate the NFL. It cracked open a quiet, decades-long relationship between entertainment conglomerates and government monitoring offices that was never supposed to see daylight. The documents included hundreds of internal emails, contracts, and red flag reports stamped Confidential Cultural Risk Assessment. Each file listed names of previous halftime performers next to a rating score, political threat level. Beyoncé, 810, The Weeknd, 610, Rihanna, 910, and next to Bad Bunny's name, 1010, requires federal oversight. That one line detonated across Capitol Hill, the secret contract, according to the leaked paperwork. Weeks before the NFL publicly confirmed Bad Bunny as the headliner, a parallel agreement had already been signed with a private defense data firm called Spectracom, contracted to provide real-time, behavioral analysis of audience response and lyric patterns. Translation, they were going to run surveillance analytics on the halftime crowd and the broadcast chat feeds. Spectracom's investors, a holding company quietly owned by former DHS officials. One clause in the agreement stated, per directive of partner agency, performer scripts and live vocal feeds will be captured and archived for sentiment review within 72 hours post-broadcast. When this became public, it wasn't just music fans who lost their minds. Civil liberties lawyers jumped in. The ACLU called it the most invasive fusion of entertainment and government monitoring ever recorded. The NFL panicked. A spokesperson rushed out a denial claiming the document was for audience engagement metrics only. But within hours, investigative journalists matched the digital signature on the contract to the same encryption key used by the DHS Cyber Monitoring Division. The denial collapsed instantly. Bad Bunny strikes back. By this point, Benito had vanished from social media, but his team hadn't. On a private Discord server later leaked to Reddit, a verified member of his production crew posted 3 words: "He's rewriting everything." That message sent shockwaves through the fandom. Rewriting what? The set list? The entire show. 2 days later, a new rumor dropped. This time from a stage technician claiming rehearsal visuals were being replaced with encrypted imagery. According to his post, every screen in the stadium had displayed a single symbol during a closed-door test, a white butterfly trapped inside a red cage. The symbolism hit instantly. Fans dissected it as a metaphor for Puerto Rico's struggle under US control, but political insiders interpreted it as a deliberate act of defiance, a direct message to the very agencies accused of censoring him. The NFL issued another statement calling the rehearsal routine system testing. But behind the scenes, congressional aides were leaking new fragments, internal memos warning that the performer appears intent on embedding coded dissent. That phrase, coded dissent, became the headline everywhere. The call from Washington late one night. 2 journalists from Politico revealed that the House Ethics Committee had received a call from an undisclosed federal department urging them to pause the hearings until after the Super Bowl. One congresswoman leaked part of the voicemail transcript herself. Delaying is in the nation's interest. Let the event proceed smoothly. Review later. The implication was unmistakable. The government didn't just want oversight, it wanted the show to happen under their terms. That's when Bad Bunny decided to make his first move. At exactly 3:07 a.m., his dormant Instagram reactivated with a single black and white post. No caption, no hashtags, just an image of the Super Bowl logo, flipped upside down. Within 10 minutes, it had 8 million likes. Within 30, it vanished. But the caption, preserved by screenshots before deletion, said everything. They asked me to sing for their country. I'm singing for mine. The rehearsal. Leaked 3 days later, someone inside the stadium uploaded a 24-second rehearsal clip. It showed Bad Bunny standing on stage, surrounded by dancers dressed as journalists with tape over their mouths. In the background, a massive projection flashed the words, "No translation required." Crowds lost their minds. Cable networks debated whether it was an act of rebellion or performance art. Politicians called it incendiary. By sunset, the NFL announced content revisions in progress, but when reporters asked if DHS agents were attending rehearsals, a senior security officer accidentally confirmed it on live TV. All I can say is, our presence is standard protocol for high-risk broadcasts. High-risk broadcasts. That phrase lit the fuse. The first twist. The civic partnership. 5 hours after that press blunder, another cache of documents dropped, this time anonymously, to journalists at The Intercept. Inside was a memo titled Civic Partnership Initiative, Entertainment Division. It detailed an arrangement, dating back to 2013, in which major televised events could voluntarily share set data with federal analysts in exchange for security clearances and financial incentives. And on the latest roster of participating events, Super Bowl likes halftime show, artist Bad Bunny. The memo's signature was jaw-dropping. J.R. Caldwell, Assistant Secretary of Cultural Analysis, Department of Homeland Security. Within hours, Caldwell was subpoenaed. Under oath, she admitted the partnership existed but claimed it was for counter-terrorism pattern recognition. When asked why lyric sheets were included in the dataset, she froze. Because words influence behavior. That sentence went viral. Memes, shirts, protest posters. Everywhere you looked, people were quoting it sarcastically. But the more she spoke, the more it became clear. The government had been quietly mining live performances for behavioral mapping for years. Bad Bunny had simply stumbled into the spotlight at the wrong or right time. The leak inside Congress one evening. As hearings dragged on, C-SPAN cameras accidentally caught a conversation between two aides before the feed cut to commercial. One whispered, "If he sings the original verse, the signal triggers." The internet replayed that clip millions of times, trying to decode what the signal meant. Analysts speculated the halftime lighting grid had been hardwired to broadcast real-time telemetry, crowd reaction data, maybe even surveillance frequencies. Suddenly, a performance became a national security concern. Lawmakers began calling it the sound war, the beta test. Theory-independent cybersecurity researchers started digging. They discovered that during rehearsals, the stadium's Wi-Fi network transmitted irregular bursts of encrypted data every time Bad Bunny performed a particular verse from his unreleased song El Silencio del Sol. The data packets matched. Spectracom's encryption, key, meaning every time he sang that verse, the network responded. Was it collecting emotional analytics or sending something back? No one knew, but conspiracy forums exploded with a new theory that the government wasn't trying to censor Bad Bunny. It was trying to use him as a live testing subject for audience control algorithms. The claim sounded insane until a journalist revealed a snippet from an internal Spectracom email. Phase 2. Activation occurs only if lyrical sequence remains unaltered during broadcast. Phase 2. Activation. Sequence. Whatever that meant, it terrified people. Bad Bunny's countermove. Just as the chaos reached fever pitch, a new video surfaced on his official YouTube channel. The thumbnail was empty black. The title simply, Ensayo Final.move. When fans clicked, it played nothing but silence for 30 seconds. Then a whisper, unmistakably Bad Bunny's voice, murmured in Spanish, La música no se vigila. Se siente. Music isn't watched, it's felt. Then the screen lit up with a single phrase in white text. See you on Sunday. 6 p.m., the clip ended. No logo, no sponsors, no disclaimer. That upload alone garnered 50 million views overnight and trended #1 worldwide. The NFL refused to comment. DHS released a statement calling it potentially inflammatory. And suddenly, Washington had a bigger problem. If they interfered now, it would look like proof that Bad Bunny had been telling the truth all along. But if they didn't interfere, and he really had embedded a message in his show, millions would witness it live. Either way, the government was trapped. The first twist. The signal within the signal on the eve of the Super Bowl. CBS technicians discovered an anomaly in the halftime broadcast feed, a sub-frequency hidden beneath the main signal. When converted into audio, it produced a slow rhythmic beat, identical to the opening percussion of Bad Bunny's protest anthem, Estamos Bien. They tried to purge it. Every time they deleted the file, it regenerated. It regenerated.
When engineers traced the origin, it wasn't coming from the production servers. It was coming from the satellite uplink through Spectracom's relay system. In other words, the same company, Congress, accused of censorship, was now injecting its own sound pattern into the feed. The government scrambled. Emergency technicians were dispatched. The NFL delayed its press conference. But the leak was already everywhere. The Super Bowl broadcast might carry a hidden transmission. And if it did, no one knew who had written it, Bad Bunny, or the people trying to silence him by the next morning. The phrase "the signal drops at halftime" was trending. Worldwide rumors claimed Benito had rewritten the entire set as a live protesters, said he'd agreed to censorship but left a secret code for fans to decode in real time. The only certainty was this: Washington was preparing to monitor a concert like it was a military operation. But when the lights went down in that stadium and the first beat hit the air, no one government, NFL, or fan could have predicted what actually came next, because the halftime show didn't just challenge censorship, it broke it. The world didn't realize it was watching history when the lights dimmed inside Allegiant Stadium. They thought it was just another Super Bowl, but for the next 13 minutes, the stage would become a live weapon broadcasting rebellion, straight into the most-watched television event on Earth. Bad Bunny's entrance looked almost ceremonial. The cameras opened on total darkness. Then, a single spotlight hit center stage, revealing him kneeling in silence. Around him, dancers stood frozen, wearing metallic masks painted like mirrors. A hush swept across the stadium. Then, without warning, the sound of a deep, last-seen pulsing heartbeat echoed through the speakers. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats, just like the encrypted rhythm the analysts had warned about. The crowd went wild, unaware they were witnessing the same frequency that the DHS and Spectracom had been tracking for weeks. The performance began. The show they couldn't see ONT or LAT first. Everything seemed fine. Bad Bunny launched into TD Me Pregunto. Fireworks exploded. Dancers filled the stage, was energetic, chaotic, perfectly choreographed. The broadcast feed ran smoothly. The NFL executives watching from the control room relaxed, but halfway through, the tone shifted. The music cut abruptly, and the stage went dark again. A massive LED screen lit up behind him, displaying a flickering montage of headlines. Censorship allegations grow. Congress investigates Super Bowl surveillance. Cultural neutrality under fire. Then came the image that froze everyone, the Puerto Rican flag. Unfurling slowly, larger than any screen in Super Bowl history. The crowd erupted. Bad Bunny stood beneath it, mic in hand, silent for a moment. Then he whispered into the microphone, voice trembling but deliberate. "Elo's Quirianel show. Ahora lo tienen. Te wanted a show. Now they have one." That was the moment chaos began. The signal Igianitas soon as those words were spoken. Technicians monitoring the live feed noticed an anomaly. The broadcast signal split into 2 frequencies. One was the official CBS feed. The other a rogue sub-channel, carrying the same visual content but with a feint. Audio distortion was being transmitted simultaneously. Across the country, millions of viewers reported glitches. Screens flickered. Audio warped. Some saw flashes of hidden words between transitions. Freedom isn't sponsored. We remember you. Stop watching, start feeling. Social media erupted. People posted clips, each showing different words appearing at random. No two broadcasts matched exactly. Then on Reddit, a user who claimed to work in broadcast engineering posted a breakdown. They've hijacked the dynamic compression feed. He's broadcasting layered text on subframe data. That's not possible unless someone preloaded it into the system weeks ago, meaning it had been planned. Every frame, every word, every hidden message. The DHS INTRVenda, IVINTO inside a control facility in Virginia. DHS command units monitoring the halftime feed went into full lockdown. Live chat transcripts from internal networks later leaked, showing frantic messages. Agent 12. Signal confirmed. Unauthorized frequency overlay. Command, can we cut it? Agent 12. If we cut it, we lose primary broadcast. It's integrated. Command, then find where it's coming from. But it wasn't coming from inside the stadium. It was bouncing between 4 different relay satellites, one of which had been decommissioned since 2018. Translation: someone had reactivated old military hardware to broadcast art. The blue flare. A mommy and tea back in the stadium. The song changed again. The lights turned icy blue. The dancers froze mid-step. And a holographic butterfly white and luminous floated above the field. The audience gasped. Then, the butterfly exploded into fragments of light that morphed into thousands of small holographic birds, each carrying a word written across its wings, silenced. Bad Bunny turned toward the crowd, raised his mic, and shouted, "This is for every artist who is told to sit down." The beat dropped, massive, thunderous, primal. Every screen in the stadium turned to static. Then flashed the same words that had haunted the investigation for weeks. Phase 2 activated. Spectracom servers crashed instantly. The DHS feed went offline. And in that blackout, millions of people at home saw something that wasn't on any official camera angle: a shadowy figure standing behind Bad Bunny, cloaked, holding a microphone. When light returned, the figure was gone, but the voice remained. The second VOSD specialists, analyzing the live broadcast, noticed a second vocal line faintly harmonizing behind Bad Bunny during Estimo's Bean. It wasn't any backup singer. It wasn't pre-dash recorded when slowed down. The voice repeated a single phrase, soft, robotic, but human. No nos pueden apagar. They can't turn us off. That wasn't in the lyrics, and when DHS technicians ran the feed through spectral analysis, they found embedded Morse code patterns inside the harmonics, spelling out 3 letters. FRE, freedom. Federal resistance experiment. Nobody knew. But Congress demanded an immediate investigation. The crowd are re-astoing inside the stadium. The audience was losing its mind. The power flickered, yet the stage lights pulsed in perfect rhythm with the crowd's cheering. Fans started waving their phones, unaware that their flashlight patterns captured by overhead. Drones were spelling something across the field stands. When viewed from above, drone footage revealed the crowd had unknowingly formed one massive phrase. The signal is ours. How? No one could explain it. But every synchronized flash matched Bad Bunny's beatdown to the millisecond. Spectracom's data mining system, which was meant to track audience reactions, suddenly began outputting binary strings that translated to random Spanish words. Libertad, recuerda, despierta. Wake up. Congress watches leave back in Washington. Congressional staffers in a closed-door session watched the show in silence, realizing it was turning into a real-time rebellion. Representative Karen Wallace, chair of the Oversight Committee, was overheard muttering, "He's doing it through art, and they can't legally stop him." An aide rushed in moments later with a printed Spectracom status update. Every word on the page was the same, repeated endlessly. Data override source unknown. The government BLACKOT then. At 8:14 p.m., everything went black. The live broadcast cut mid-song. Television screens across the world went dark. For 13 full seconds, nothing but silence. Then a low hum began. When visuals returned, Bad Bunny was standing center stage, eyes closed, microphone lowered, surrounded by an endless field of projected blue light. The scoreboard behind him glowed with a countdown timer. 0 hours, 33 minutes, and 0 seconds. The crowd screamed. He looked straight into the camera and said, "You can't mute what's already heard." Then he dropped the mic. Fireworks erupted. The lights cut. The feed ended. Lights cut. The feed ended. The FTR Mate Exta NFL immediately issued a statement claiming a technical malfunction caused the broadcast interruption. But screenshots from network control panels showed that the broadcast wasn't interrupted, was rerouted. The signal that should have gone to CBS servers was instead redirected to an IP block registered in San Juan, Puerto Rico. For 6 minutes. The entire world had been watching a stream that no one, not even the broadcaster's dash, controlled by midnight. Engineers confirmed the rogue transmission had embedded a 333 timestamp inside every replay file uploaded online. Every time fans tried to rewatch the halftime show, the file froze at the 333 mark, revealing a single hidden frame. Somos recuerdo, Kia remembrance. The shocking reveal the next morning. CNN aired exclusive footage from an anonymous whistleblower inside Spectracom. In a trembling voice, she confessed, it wasn't Bad Bunny who hacked the system. It was the audience. The network learned from their emotions, mirrored them, then broke the firewall. That's why the data overrode itself. It was never about censorship. It was about what happens when truth hits too many frequencies at once. Her statement sent shockwaves through every level of government. If true, it meant the Super Bowl halftime show had become a living feedback loop, a spontaneous act of human resistance that no algorithm could contain. By nightfall, hashtags like #TheSignal, #FreedomFrequency, and #BadBunnyUnplugged dominated every platform. The world was no longer debating whether the show broke rules, it was debating whether it had changed reality. But as the hysteria grew, one final development pushed everything over the edge, because late that night, the House subcommittees encrypted internal servers only for classified hearings received an audio file from an unknown sender. The file name, phase3_initialize.mp3. It contained exactly 3 seconds of sound, Bad Bunny's voice whispering, "Nos vimos, en Mars. See you in March." Whatever Phase 3 meant, nobody knew. But across the world, fans began circling one date: March 3rd, 3. 3.3:3. 3. The frequency wasn't fading. It was building, and for the first time in history, Congress wasn't investigating a performance. They were trying to stop the next one by sunrise. The world had turned on its axis. The biggest halftime show in Super Bowl history had mutated into an international crisis. And Bad Bunny, once the darling of the global music scene, was now being labeled everything from a freedom hero to a national threat. The internet ERUPTs within hours. The hashtags #TheSignal, #FreedomFrequency, and #SOMOSRECUERDO were trending worldwide. People weren't just sharing clips, they were decoding them. Every frame, Every flicker of light from the performance became a conspiracy map. On Reddit, entire subforums sprang up overnight, filled with engineers, fans, and ex-government workers analyzing the data patterns embedded in the broadcast. One thread gained over 5 million views in a single morning. Its title, "The Halftime Show was an activation sequence." A top comment read, "He didn't hack the system woke up." TikTok users started experimenting with the playback files. When played in reverse at 0.75 speed, the halftime stream produced a faint sequence of tones. Sound technicians confirmed that those tones corresponded to Morse for 3 words: "We are free." And yet, no one could verify who had embedded it or whether it was intentional. Governments. GEO on DFENS, the Federal Communications Commission, called an emergency press briefing, labeling the show a coordinated data breach event. They promised to investigate foreign interference. But in a twist nobody expected, Latin American officials pushed back. Puerto Rican and Colombian politicians publicly defended Bad Bunny, calling him a voice for those who never got airtime. Mexico's president tweeted, "Art cannot be controlled by fear. If the truth made the signal, let it speak." That single tweet triggered diplomatic chaos. The U.S. State Department responded within an hour, calling the statement inappropriate commentary on an ongoing security review. Across Europe, broadcasters replayed the performance uncensored. In Madrid, crowds gathered outside the U.S. Embassy chanting "La música no se vigila." Music isn't watched. Hollywood's DIVIDI inside the entertainment industry. Panic split the power circles in half. One faction made up of executives. Producers and label heads wanted to cut ties with Bad Bunny immediately. They claimed he'd put sponsors, networks, and the entire Super Bowl brand at risk. Major advertisers like Pepsi and Verizon quietly pulled footage of their halftime commercials from YouTube, citing unresolved legal sensitivities. But artists rallied behind him. Billie Eilish posted a black square with the caption, "Let him sing." Kendrick Lamar tweeted, "When they control the volume, hum louder." Even Beyoncé, still reeling from her own media storms, broke her silence with a single post, an image of a butterfly in a broken cage, the same symbol that had appeared during Bad Bunny's set. Fans immediately noticed something eerie. The post went up at 3:33 a.m. The music industry's fellow U.S. streaming services went haywire. Overnight, Spotify's Top 50 global chart was replaced with a looping playlist titled The Frequency, the top 5 songs, all Bad Bunny tracks. Then listeners began reporting strange behavior from the app itself. When users typed Bad Bunny into the search bar, the results would glitch for half a second before showing an empty screen with the word "signal restored." Spotify later claimed it was a catching bug. No one believed them. Behind the scenes, record executives began leaking memos admitting they feared the artist had unlocked a new form of audience control. One CEO was quoted in Variety saying, "If he can bypass broadcast oversight once, he can do it again." The next performance could crash half the network grid. At the same time, small independent musicians flooded social media thanking Bad Bunny for breaking the algorithmic chains. Underground artists started tagging their releases with #Phase3Ready in solidarity. Congress and Damage CONTO, LABKONCHONTON. While back in Washington, the Subcommittee on Media and Ethics descended into chaos. Lawmakers who'd previously dismissed the hearings as political. Theater now realized they were dealing with a live data phenomenon that nobody fully understood. During a closed session, Representative Karen Wallace reportedly slammed her notebook shut and said, "We tried to censor a concert and accidentally created an information war." Minutes later, the House Intelligence Chair announced a joint investigation with the Department of Energy's Cyber Resonance Division A department. That, until that day, the public didn't know existed. Leaked snippets from their first report confirmed what fans already suspected. The frequency anomaly that occurred during the show had replicated itself across private networks. Every device that streamed the performance was now broadcasting a low, inaudible hum. Technicians dubbed it the Bunny Pulse. The cultural BACKLA set church groups and conservative pundits seized the narrative. Talk show hosts called the event satanic theater disguised as activism. 1. Senator demanded the NFL ban foreign performers from political influence. Another suggested establishing a broadcast patriot act to ensure halftime shows were pre-cleared for ideological safety. Bad Bunny's fans countered immediately. Millions began live streaming moments of silence each night at 3:33 a.m., turning off their lights and playing the faint heartbeat sound that had opened his performance. They called it the Remembrance Minute. Stadiums around Latin America lit up with projections of his butterfly in a cage symbol. Universities hosted panels debating whether his art had triggered a mass digital awakening. Psychologists appeared on news networks explaining that people weren't hallucinating. BROADCAST had likely created a subliminal frequency loop that synced with viewers' alpha brainwaves, producing shared sensory impressions. If that was true, then Bad Bunny hadn't just sung a protest song. He'd temporarily connected millions of human minds through rhythm. The industry are rebound lie my midweek. Smaller artists began staging their own signal sessions, impromptu concerts where they played distorted versions of Bad Bunny songs at precisely 3:33 p.m. local time. The events spread like wildfire from Mexico City to Buenos Aires. From New York rooftops to London warehouses, every crowd reported the same anomaly. The power would flicker, microphones would hum, and the audio meters would spike on frequencies too low for normal instruments to create. News outlets dismissed it as coincidence. But when a NASA engineer publicly tweeted that several satellites had registered synchronized microbursts during the same time windows, even skeptics went quiet. The line between myth and data had officially vanished. Bad Bunny's REAPPARNC. 6 days after the performance, Bad Bunny re-emerged. Not through social media, not through press conferences, but via a live stream that materialized simultaneously on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch. The screen was black. Then his voice, calm, measured, heavy with emotion. They said I broke their system. But their system was already broken. I just sang loud enough for them to hear the cracks. The feed cut after 40 seconds, replaced by a single frame of text. Phase 3, March 3. No one knew if it was real. No official channel claimed responsibility. But the timestamp on the stream read 3:33 a.m. UTC. 3:33 a.m. UTC. The world holds its BRATH. Governments issued new cybersecurity warnings. Broadcasters quietly updated their anti-signal firewalls. The NFL announced it would reevaluate its future partnerships. But for millions of fans, the damage or the transformation was already done. Street artists in Barcelona painted murals of Bad Bunny's silhouettes surrounded by blue light. In San Juan, entire boards played his music from their balconies at night until the city's power grid overloaded. Everywhere, people whispered the same question: if Phase 2 woke the world, what happens when Phase 3 begins? And as midnight approached on the 1st of March, phones across the planet began to buzz again with the same strange notification. Signal calibrating 3 days. It wasn't from an app. It wasn't from any known network. It was coming from the same coordinates as the Super Bowl broadcast tower. Something was preparing to transmit again. And this time, Congress wouldn't be able to pull the plug as the countdown to March 3rd thermid activation date drew closer. The line between myth and reality disappeared entirely. Governments, corporations, even intelligence agencies had begun preparing for something that no one could define. Was it a concert? A protest? A cyber event? Nobody knew. But everywhere you looked, people were preparing like it was the end of the world or the start of something new. The countdown began on February 28th. Phones across the globe vibrated simultaneously. No app notification, no alert source, just a faint buzz and the words, "Signal calibrating, 72 hours." The font matched the one used during the halftime broadcast. In Washington, Congress held an emergency closed-door meeting. Inside, forensic technicians from Spectracom delivered their latest findings. What they said stunned everyone. According to their analysis, every digital device that had streamed Bad Bunny's performance, even for a second, was now transmitting a faint but measurable frequency, 3.33 Hz. The same resonance that had synced the Super Bowl crowd. In other words, the signal wasn't just a metaphor. It had become an electronic organism, alive and spreading. But when technicians attempted to isolate and block the frequency, their computers crashed. The same message appeared on every monitor. The signal belongs to the people. That was when officials realized they'd lost control. Bad Bunny a rejournes, midnight on March 2nd. A single live stream appeared across every major platform: Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, even Netflix. No one knew who uploaded it. But it overrode live content globally for exactly 33 seconds. The screen showed Bad Bunny, sitting alone in a dark room wearing a black hoodie. Behind him, faint blue light flickered like television static. He didn't perform. He didn't smile. He just spoke softly, his eyes heavy. They wanted silence. But music doesn't die, it multiplies. Then he leaned forward, voice trembling with quiet rage. Tomorrow, they'll try to stop the song. Don't let them. The feed cut to black, but right before it ended, one final frame appeared for less than a second. 3:33 a.m. UTC. Phase. THRE. When the clock hit 3:33, chaos erupted. Across the planet, streaming services glitched simultaneously. YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music all displayed the same title in their search bars when users typed anything. The memory returns live signal even when disconnected from the internet. At that same moment, radio towers from New York to Buenos Aires emitted a single, low hum audible only through interference channels. Those who tuned in claimed they heard music hidden beneath the static drums' voices, and a familiar phrase whispered repeatedly in Spanish, "Somos uno." We are one. Then, every frequency cut at once, for exactly 1 minute. The entire digital world fell silent when it returned. Something impossible happened. Screens everywhere, phones, TVs. Billboards displayed a live feed of Bad Bunny standing in an empty stadium bathed in blue light. No stage, no audience, just him and a microphone. He raised his hands slowly, as though conducting an invisible orchestra. Then the ground beneath him lit up with thousands of glowing shapes QR codes, each pulsing in time with the beat of his heart. He said one sentence that nobody would ever forget. "This is not a performance. It's a release." The global URLs instantly, the QR codes on screens across the planet activated. People who scanned them were redirected to a file titled El Silencio del Sol, Final Mix. But the file wasn't a song. It was a sound wave, the same 3.33 Hz tone, wrapped in layers of harmony, encoded with patterns of human speech. Within seconds of the upload, data analysts confirmed that the file wasn't stored anywhere. It existed only as vibration, transient sound echoing between active devices as long as people kept playing it. It stayed alive. If they stopped, it disappeared. It was the world's first living song, and within hours, it had reached every corner of the planet. The government's COL lay PC. White House issued a formal order calling the signal a threat to national infrastructure. Power grids began to flicker as millions of devices synchronized playback, overwhelming data channels. But attempts to block it failed. The more authorities interfered, the stronger the resonance became, like it was feeding off resistance. Within a day, the world was vibrating at 3.33 Hz, and then a new broadcast appeared, the final TRNS Sioanon, March 4th. At precisely 3:33 a.m., a global live stream began on every platform simultaneously. The source was unknown. The screen showed the Super Bowl field, now empty, flooded in silver light. In the center stood Bad Bunny, holding the same microphone, barefoot. Surrounded by projection screens, playing real-time footage of cities across the world, all pulsing with blue light. He smiled faintly, then whispered, "You can shut down the show. You can erase the data. But you can't delete vibration." He looked directly into the camera. Phase 4 begins when you start singing. Then he lifted the mic, and the sound that followed wasn't human, it was collective. Millions of voices echoed his melody simultaneously, merging into a single tone that made stadium lights across the world. Flicker. The feed dissolved into pure white. When screens returned, there was no logo, no signal, no trace of the event, just silence. But inside that silence, if you turned your speakers up loud enough, you could hear a heartbeat. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats. The aftermath. The next morning, the U.S. government officially declared the phenomenon contained. All traces of the signal were scrubbed. But people knew it wasn't gone in cities around the world. Reports flooded in, light poles humming faintly, static songs bleeding through dead radio stations, and children singing unfamiliar melodies in their sleep. The butterfly in the cage logo began appearing on buildings, painted by unknown hands. And every night at 3:33 a.m., the world's networks still flicker for exactly 1 second, just long enough to flash the same message across dormant screens. Phase 4 loading. The Super Bowl performance had ended, but the movement had only just begun. Bad Bunny had disappeared completely. No sightings, no statements, not even a trace of his location. But in the weeks that followed, new music began mysteriously appearing on line tracks with no listed artist, no metadata. But his unmistakable voice, one of them contained a single lyric, whispered over silence. La música es libertad. Y la libertad recuerda. Music is freedom, and freedom remembers. And just like that, the world realized the Super Bowl wasn't the end of a concert. It was the beginning of a revolution. It was the beginning of a revolution.